Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, From Waste to Fashion, Solutions for Fashion Brands in Transition to Greener Future. My name is Sanna Andersson, and I'm a commercial advisor at the Consulate General of Finland in New York. It's our pleasure to host this event together with Business Finland and as part of the Circular City Week in New York. Thank you all for joining us today. We have a fascinating program ahead, of which my colleague Anssi will tell you more about.
Thank you, Sanna, and welcome everyone on my behalf as well. My name is Anssi Vallius, and I'm the advisor for cultural affairs and creative industries at the Consulate General of Finland in New York. Today, we will take a close look at the textile and fashion industry's transition to the circular economy and hear case examples and accelerating this transition with super exciting innovations from Finland. To set the stage for the 8 Finnish company showcases, we will kick off with a panel discussion on the topic, how to support circular economy and sustainability in the textile industry, with 4 magnificent speakers from both sides of the Atlantic. But first, I will give the floor to Marika Ollaranta, Head of Bio and Circular Program at Business Finland. Marika will give you a crash course on why Finland is considered a leader in the circular economy space. Marika, please.
Thank you. Good morning, New York, and greetings from Finland. My name is Marika Ollaranta, and I work for Business Finland. Business Finland is a government-owned company that funds innovations and helps Finnish companies to do the international business. And today we are in New York. I'm pleased to attend this event today and create awareness for Finnish innovations toward providing more sustainable solutions for consumers, as Business Finland, together with these innovation companies, want to have a strong role in this acceleration that we are facing. Finland has a strong knowledge on the topics as we have developed wood-based textile fibers innovations already over a decade, and the textile recycling methods and business models like textile rentals for the past 5 years. Finland has lived out of the wood for the past 400 years, and it still surprises me on a weekly basis what you can do out of the wood with emerging technologies and innovations. Also, like a textile treatment related topics, as you can hear today. Finland was also the first country in the world that created roadmap for the circular economy, and we just a few months ago published a ministry-led carbon-free circular economy strategy for Finland. And this pioneering experience is a very valuable knowledge when speeding up the processes. We are open for the cooperation with the cities, fashion brands, and the textile manufacturing companies to be able to provide more sustainable solutions for consumers. I hope that you all enjoy the event, and thank you for this invite.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Marika, for those introductory words. Today, I'm very excited to host a panel looking at innovations to accelerate the transition towards a more circular and sustainable textile industry, because the question today is less about why do we need to change the industry, but what will it take to achieve it, and what will be the solutions that will enable it to happen at scale. The case for change is now well understood, and what we need is a better understanding of how to scale and adopt the solutions. And I'm very, very excited to have a panel today with a number of experts from both sides of the Atlantic who will be able to shed a lot more light on those questions. I will let them introduce themselves, starting with Caroline.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I am a managing director at Closed Loop Partners. We are an investment firm and innovation center based in New York and focused on development of circular economies. I lead our practice in the fashion and beauty sectors.
Thanks, Caroline. Rachel?
Hi, my name is Rachel Kibbe. Thank you for having me. I am founder of Circular Services Group. We are a circularity consultancy working with fashion brands to develop and execute strategy around circularity and sustainability. I'm also a founder of Skilled Laborers Brigade, and we're a domestic manufacturing company enabling circularity for brands through a large network of skilled garment workers.
Amazing. And Rolf?
Hey, My name is Rolf Ekroth. I'm a fashion designer from Finland. I used to study at Aalto University, and I started my namesake label in 2019.
Great. And so we've got an amazing panel today to really explore this conversation about what it takes to transition towards a circular economy. But maybe first, we conversation on circular economy and how has this topic evolved over the past 3 to 5 years. Towards the end of last year at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we published a short paper detailing our vision of a circular economy for fashion. We developed this vision with over 100 experts trying to create alignment across the industry on what good looks like and what are some of the essential components of a circular economy for fashion. And we detail those into 3 areas. The first one is on increasing product use. The second is on making products so they can be made again. And the third one is on making products from safe and recycled or renewable inputs. And so what I'd love to hear from our expert panel now is what are the evolutions that they have seen in their work over the past 3 to 5 years in this transition towards a circular economy. Maybe we can start with you, Caroline.
Sure. I think it's such an exciting time, first of all, to be working in circular economy because it has become the focus of so many conversations. I would say a couple of the major changes that we've seen emerge even in the last 2 years. So even 3 to 5 years is a big time frame in talking about the development of circular economy. So even in the last 2 years, number one is a shifting of consumer sentiment. So really consumers demanding transparency to understand where their products are from, how they're made, and where they land at end of life, and taking an interest in expressing a value system that companies now have the opportunity to respond to. So I would say that's number one. And number two is there's just been an emergence of these incredible solutions. And so, we see the area becoming more and more crowded and more exciting with really smart innovators, designers and entrepreneurs looking to solve for these problems of circularity. So that landscape is dramatically different from even 24 months ago. So I think those are two of the really exciting evolutions that we see and we really feel in our everyday work right now.
Great. And Rachel, does that echo what you are seeing from your perspective?
I couldn't say it better. I think we've really seen the industry go from sustainability and circularity being sort of a fringe topic, a nice to have, to industry-wide adoption. And there used to be a separation between sustainability and not sustainable, and I don't think that is the case anymore. Everyone's having to reckon with their sustainability and circularity plans. But actual circularity is really early days. I mean, it's topic of conversation for us every day, but a lot of people don't even know what it means yet. And so it's still relatively unknown. And so I think brands have an opportunity for education here. And then we just see a lot of momentum among companies sort of piloting and then eventually scaling these technologies. And so we have a lot of room for innovation to come. And I think Caroline's right. Even over the last 24 months, it's such a drastic uptick in awareness. I think we're also starting to feel the pain points in circularity of the infrastructure missing at scale, which I think is actually a good thing because there's so much to come.
Amazing. And from the other side of the Atlantic, Rolf, what would be your appraisal?
I remember going to school in 2015-16 and always going to Premier Vision in Paris for fabrics. And trying to find recyclable fabrics for like 5 or 6 years ago was, I wouldn't say it was impossible, but it was vastly different from what it is now. Like fabric makers had this small bunch of fabrics over here, back way somewhere hidden, and they were valued like 4 times more than the normal ones. So the change is completely, it's so much better nowadays, and I can go to almost any manufacturer and ask for as for recycled or green fabrics, and they have lots and lots of me to show. And also, like, the main thing for me as a small label is that prices have come down. They're almost the same price level as you would say normal fabrics at this point.
Great, and that, I mean, all those perspectives are very, very encouraging for the future. And so what I'm wondering now is, from where you are, what do you see as the trends? And maybe, again, 3-5 years is a long shot, but maybe over the next 2 years, what do you see as the main trends that will shape that transition? Maybe Caroline again.
Yeah, so when we look to the future and we think about what's necessary to really move the circular economy forward in the fashion space, number one is capital. All of this requires investment and funding to innovate, to get some of these incredible solutions to a pilot phase, a commercial phase, an ability to scale. So there are definitely capital needs. Equally important, I would say, are corporate adoption of some of these new technologies. So, if an incredible solution is living in a lab, it's not doing much. When corporates invest, test, pilot, and commercialize some of these, it really gets to the public. So incredibly important as part of that journey. And also of the same level of importance is continued consumer education and also action. One of the metrics that we do not have clear data on today is actual consumer action. So we know expressed intention, customers who say, if I had the choice, I would buy a sustainable or a circular product, but really seeing that play out in the data of revenue and sales is something that, still remains to be proven. So I think that, that triangle of sort of investors, corporates, and consumers are the drivers of what will make this a reality in the next few years.
Great. Yeah, thanks. And Rachel, from your experience, you've done a lot also with brands, and so is it something you see also the importance of engaging customers and of brand action?
Yes, I think that brands are sort of engaging with customers now to see how they respond, and so there's sort of a dance between what they can offer now, what customers are actually willing to purchase, and sort of like Caroline said, getting data from that. It's too early stage for some of the things that we're seeing to actually decide what customers are going to buy into. Because like when we think of circularity, it's this perfect circle, but really there's tons of points along that circle, which are sort of different options and different entry points in which a brand can participate in the circular economy. I think I would say that like over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see, I think the easiest, lowest hanging fruit and the most climate beneficial sort of options are resale and rental. I think we're seeing an uptick in that. We're going to continue to see that become adoption in the norm, and all the businesses around that are going to grow. And because of that, I think we're going to see durability become an increasing part of the conversation in circularity, because people are going to see their closets as holding something valuable. And then all the business models sort of adjacent to enabling circularity are going to grow much more quickly, I think, such as like repair, recycling, both mechanical and chemical, upcycling. And these are going to best work in regional systems. So I think we're going to see regional systems become increasingly important, meaning if you can collect something here in the Northeast, it would be best to repair it here and upcycle it here or recycle it here. And so I think that we have all these points that we're just building right now. And then my final point about just trends that I think we're going to see is I think we're really going to see a focus on the inputs, meaning regenerative and climate beneficial textiles. I think crops like hemp are potentially going to become more important, crops that draw down CO2, limit water, limit pesticides. I think we're really going to start to look at all the points in the supply chain much more carefully.
Great, amazing, and definitely those new business models have proven through the crisis we're living that they have also resilience benefits, as we've seen a lot of the companies adopting them, navigate the period of disruption at a better. than traditional retail. And Rolf, from your perspective, and you've mentioned the increased availability of better alternatives on the fabric perspective. What do you foresee as coming up in the next years that will make your life even easier?
It's never going to be easier. But I mean, so small things are easier, like just the availability is easier. I think I started to really look into what kind of fabrics I use maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago, when I had a bit more time to reflect on what my label should be and what the future looks like. So I think the first collection that we looked more into recyclable fabrics, we did about 40, maybe 45% recyclable. And now the latest collection is, I think, 85% stock material or recyclable fabrics, plus this amazing fabric that I'm going to tell you, I think, a bit later on. So, I mean, I kind of hope that we would get to 100% at some point, but realistically, for the next upcoming seasons, being around 85%, 90% stock material and recyclable fabrics is really good. So I hope that other brands follow, and I mean, lots of major houses have already gone to this. So I think the future is really cool.
Nice. Good words to continue from, and maybe we can continue the conversation with you, Rolf, on the perspective from a designer in this space. And what I'd like to hear your thoughts on is maybe telling us a little bit more about your journey towards maybe what we can call like sustainable or circular design, and also the importance of education in that journey.
Well, education-wise, I did only the BA program at Aalto University. I had job offers and opportunities, so I didn't have time to do the master's. What I believe is now that the master's program has more of courses towards ecological and ethical things around textiles. But from my point of view, we only focused on designing, but we also sort of were given free choice of what we want to do with the collection, of what kind of fabrics we want to use. So it was mostly up to ourselves to educate ourselves. And as I said previously, 5-6 years ago, it was quite hard to find lots of cool fabrics that were recyclable. So for me, it's been gradually, year by year, I've been trying to get more into it. And for me, at least, this past year, taking almost a year off due to COVID, gave me time to find the right manufacturers and also sort of rethink the focus of my brand. I'm not sure if I answered your questions.
No, that's a very good segue into the next side of the conversation, which is when you look at the fabric you use and like more innovative materials, and as you try to integrate them more into what you do, what has been your experience with that?
Well, the latest one was quite amazing. I don't know, should we go to the Bio 2 fabric textile that I was using?
Absolutely. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's been made by a Finnish energy company called Fortum. It's called Bio 2. It's made out of straw. And it's usually straw that is discarded or even burned. And like burning straw is one of the worst polluters on earth. So it's quite amazing that we could get rid of the pollution and that also bring extra revenue for farmers in developing countries and also in Europe. So, I mean, just by the benefits that we get by using these fabrics are major. We don't need to use more water. It doesn't need fields to grow on. It's all extra. Like the main topic for the next collection is that we can get food and clothing from the same crop. So that's what I'm really working on and super happy about it. The other side, like the other positive point about Bio2 is the quality. I've never felt like there's lots of good fabrics made with recyclable methods, but the quality of these straw fabrics, Bio2, is I would compare it to, you know, Rick Owens cotton silk jerseys that you can buy for €1,000 or dollars. So I mean, it's blown my mind what they created, and I can only see upsides to it. And we're hoping to continue working with Fortum and getting it into stores soon as well.
Amazing, and so that fabric is you use it for specific application in your work, or is it super versatile and you can use it for pretty much anything?
I think it's still in development, so they can mostly do, like they can do quite a lot with it. We can do jerseys and we can do woven fabrics, but for this collection we got jerseys, so we made t-shirts, dresses, and all sorts of weird stuff. It was super fun to work with it. I mean, the only thing that I was worried because we had a limited amount of it, and you know, there's a big company and big expectations, and also I know sort of what it costs for this small batch of material to do, so it wasn't fun cutting it the first time. It was super nerve-wracking. But I mean, everything went really well, and both parties are super pleased with the results. So looking forward to the next collection and the next one.
Amazing. That's really great to hear. And I think one of the points in this conversation is very much the importance, and Caroline, you made that point a bit earlier about the investment to really scale those solutions. And so I'd like to hear your thoughts from an investor perspective on what makes the field of circular and sustainable solutions particularly attractive for investors.
Sure. Well, I always start that thought with just sort of the sheer size of this industry. And if you were to take the word fashion out and just say global industry, multi-trillion dollars, touches almost everyone on the planet in a moment of massive disruption, you would have investors running to the center of that. Obviously, the disruption of a major industry always includes great opportunity for growth of new solutions. So number one, that makes it a really exciting area. Number two, you know, there are so many areas of the process that are in need of evolution. So, you know, we focus a lot of our work on supply chain solutions, which in fashion, we're really able to define as early as the design ideation stage. So, you know, the choices that Rolf is making in his studio, and even before then at, you know, the fabric fairs and all of that, will predicate 80 to 90% of the end of life's outcome for a product. So really looking at the technologies that can enable smarter design all the way through the merchandising function, clean manufacturing, transparency, the whole area of recapture, renew, re-commerce, chemical recycling, end of life. So there's so many interesting pockets for investors to explore and dive into. And then I would say it's a really dynamic sector right now because it's combining a very high level of creativity with science, innovation, and technology. And all of those are critical parts of this this process. And so there's just a lot in there that as an investor you can get really excited about. And we certainly are.
Great. And one of the actors also within that spectrum of stakeholders involved in the transition is also the kind of more policymaker, public side of the equation. And one of the questions I had is the perspective you have on the importance of working with more, let's say, public sector actors to accelerate this transition.
for sure, the development of a regulatory environment in fashion would dramatically accelerate this movement to a circular economy. There are huge differences geographically across the globe in which steps have been taken so far and how much of a priority that is. It was exciting to see within the last week the conversation in the UK about voluntary EPR in the fashion industry. France took some steps early on, was the first, I believe, the first to ban the burning of product and destruction of product. In the US, I think we're pretty far from that being a priority. Right now, we really see that if we waited for regulation to happen in this industry, we would be waiting a long time for consistent global regulation. So right now, we see the real drivers of this living more in consumer demand. It's very hard for companies to react, invest, move talent, resources, and capital to an area that customers don't care about. Once customers have a voice and they're expressing this as something they want to see, it enables CEOs to allocate capital and talent to that area. And so we see that as the first driver of this. And certainly if regulation comes along, it will be a really important accelerator in the change.
Great. And one thing I remember that I forgot to mention earlier is for anyone in the audience who's got questions, please do put them in the Q&A box. I forgot to say. But we'll definitely have a time to put your questions in front of the panel at the end of this conversation. So please don't hesitate to share any questions that you have for our panelists. And I think one of the things that we've touched on ever so slightly in a few moments is the importance of collaboration in this transition, whether it's a brand working with a technology solution, whether it's importance of bringing customers in your journey, that broad sense of how do we kind of work together in order to accelerate this transition. A few years ago at the foundation, we've done a sort of pilot in New York to try and stimulate clothing not to go to landfill. So we worked with a number of brands, including the Gap, Zara, H&M, but also the city authorities of New York, to have a shared message and a sort of alignment in terms of how do brands talk to their customers to tell them that when they don't use their clothing, it doesn't have to go to a garbage bin, but it can be donated, it can be collected, resold, or reused. Just an example of that type of collaboration. And one question I had for all of you in a way was, what are some examples of collaborations that you have witnessed that have really helped move the conversation forward? Maybe we can start with you, Rolf.
Sorry, my connection is super choppy, but you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, for me, the latest collaboration was probably like the needle mover. Like we gotten really good publicity out of working with Fortum, and I mean that's been the most important for me. I used to work for another Finnish company, and we also did quite a lot of fabric collaborations. But as a smaller company from Finland, it's not always the easiest to get the right connections and the right articles out there. I mean, this fabric that we now have, Bio2, it's so groundbreaking that I'm sort of almost lost for words that we don't have more major news outlets covering it. But, I might have lost something in your question because my connection was so choppy.
Don't worry. The question was very much around what are some of the collaborations that you've seen, that you've experienced, that really helped move the needle in the transition. So great answer, I think.
Okay, cool.
And Caroline, you sit across a broad range of collaboration potential. So what would be your perspective?
Yeah, so we get really excited about collaborations, and one thing I'll say is, I think the idea of collaboration between corporates in the fashion industry is probably less evolved than in other, in other industries, but developing within this conversation of sustainability and circularity. But, an example of that sort of innovator, investor, corporate triangle, we are investors in a company called Evernew in America that is focused on chemical recycling process. And so we were an early investor in Evernew. So, we're there at the beginning, providing capital to help that business, in the very early unproven stage. It has since evolved and now has piloted and tested and done small commercial runs with brands like Adidas, Stella McCartney, Levi's, which really brings it to the consumer and puts it right into their hand. And without the triangle of those three elements, it wouldn't have had the opportunity to land in consumer hands. The other thing that is, particularly valuable about the companies that Evernew is working with is they're leaders in terms of education. So, they really invest time in explaining to customers what is unique about a product, why they should care, and so that has an added value of incentivizing consumers. So I think that's one good example. Another completely different way of working, not in fashion today, but, something that can happen in the future is a little in line with what the work that you've been doing at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, with some of the pre-competitive work. And, we also, in our innovation center, the Center for the Circular Economy, in pre-competitive solutions for parallel industries. And so, if you look at it as an example, we have a project there today, the Next Gen Cup Challenge, which brings together businesses like Starbucks and McDonald's and a group of beverage companies and fast food companies to replace the cup and make it compostable, biodegradable. We hope to see more of that in the fashion industry. I think the Ellen MacArthur Foundation has been a leader in that within the sector. And, as the mindsets are shifting and fashion corporates are more willing to collaborate openly in some of these projects, I think we'll see more of it, and it will be a really important driver for growth.
And Rachel, what would be your perspective there working with a lot of brands?
I'm sorry, my connection's very choppy as well. I didn't hear the question.
Sorry, I was asking what would be your perspective on the topic working with a lot of brands?
I think that there's been a lot of great examples of collaboration on the front end of the supply chain, and to some extent in circularity, the example you made of the collaboration you did in New York City with collecting clothes, diverting them from landfill, education. I think more of that needs to be done. A lot of the work that I do with brands is connecting them with solutions that are on the market, but there's a lot of room for making that process more open, transparent, and educating both brands and customers about what we're doing together. Because until we do that, the solutions that we are sort of creating within the brands are going to have a hard time scaling. So I think there is a tremendous opportunity to look to some of the collaborations that have happened on the front end of the supply chain and manufacturing and tier 1 to tier 4 sort of environmental impact, the same happening among those of us who are both creating solutions and being service providers to the circular economy. I also think that there's a collaboration between the customer and the brand that we've never seen before in our lifetimes. Because you're going to, for a product to be circular, the brand has an opportunity to engage with the customer throughout the lifetime of the product. And so that in itself is a collaboration. And I think we're still in sort of a test phase, because every brand is going to have a different type of customer and a different relationship with their customer. So if repair works for one brand, recycling might actually work better for another, because brands have to sort of figure out what their customers are willing to participate in. And I think there's tremendous opportunity to engage the customer in an increasing sort of collaborative way, to actually get these things into continuous use and reuse and make that have a business case.
Super. I'm going to pick up those ideas on engaging the customers with you in just a minute, Rachel. But before, what we could do is share a video from Rolf to bring to life a little bit the work he's done with Bio2 and give some more tangible examples of what this type of innovation can look like. I think this is. Go ahead, Rolf.
No, it's so weird that it's sunny and super nice weather here, and then we see the contrast is so big, because then we see a like cultish version of what we did for the last season. Like the idea for the collection was to build a sort of a tongue-in-cheek cult following straw. So most of the things were from the fabric, and we had fun with it. It was super. It was a fun collection, even though the video seems quite serious.
and I think it's also a testament to the versatility of the fabric you were mentioning earlier. Great, that's fantastic. And I think, on continuing the conversation with the involvement of the customer in the conversation, Rachel, one of the things that we've heard a lot about is the variation between pre and post-pandemic expectations in people's mind. What are some of the changes that you've witnessed there?
I mean, I think that I think hindsight is always 20/20, and we've all gone through so much this year, and everything is changing. Consumer perspective is changing, brand perspective is changing. What that means for the future, none of us can predict, but we know that there's such an increased amount of awareness about what sustainability means, and that it is a real vital, important topic in the fashion industry, and customers are bringing that to people's attention. It's not just us within the industry talking about it, it's customers asking for it. And because of that, people are weary of greenwashing. They're talking openly about their concern about greenwashing. They're expecting more transparency. They're labeling it transparency. And so I think that customers are expecting a more direct line of communication between themselves and brands than we've ever seen. And they have the opportunity to do so because of social media 24 hours a day. So that is an opportunity and a curse for a lot of brands, because it requires a lot of bandwidth and a lot of thought and a lot of thoughtfulness. For people like me, it's exciting because there's nothing but innovation to happen there. It's also an opportunity for brands to tell their stories to customers in a new and different way. So you're not just sort of ramming sustainability down someone's throat. They're asking you to tell a real story and have a storyline about it. And I mean, the topic of greenwashing is interesting because I think a lot of people are just learning what that means. And so it's coming up a lot. But I think that it's sort of nuanced. I think it's it's only greenwashing if you're overpromising. And I think that's coming up later in the conversation. But I think it's an interesting point to sort of note about what is happening between brands and customers that they're even asking about greenwashing. And I mean, customers right now, for obvious reasons, are much more concerned about where they spend their money. And so I think for, environmental reasons and also just pure, pocketbook reasons, they're asking, like, why should I spend money with your brand? And with options like resale and, people going to thrift stores more often, customers are even kind of becoming their own brands in a way. People are reselling their own closets and they're marketing themselves as resellers. So brands have a lot to contend with right now. And in terms of like how the pandemic has impacted customer behavior, we know that it has. We know it's impacted their sentiment. But what the ultimate upshot of that is and where people are ultimately going to spend their dollars, I think is a little uncertain still. We need to measure, we need to interact with customers, we need to ask questions, answer questions, and brands really need to participate in a way that's much less removed than it was. The fashion industry in the 90s was very sort of removed from the customer and presented to them what they thought they wanted, and you bought it or you didn't buy it. Now it's much more fluid.
Amazing. And there's one question from the audience that comes at a good point in this conversation, which is, what would you say as the main barriers for customers, keeping them from accessing or buying more sustainable fashion? Maybe Rachel, what would be your thoughts on that?
I think it's still cost. I mean, I really think it's still cost, and that's why the work Caroline's doing is so important. We need investment in scaling this infrastructure and these technologies and these innovations, because if we can drive the demand only, we can only get parity, like price parity, price equivalency of these options if we have the scale. And it's the same in regular production. Like if you produce 10,000 units of a t-shirt, it's way less expensive than 100 units. And so the same is going to be true with every single innovation in circularity. So we really need to start putting capital into these new, this new sort of economy. It's entirely new economy, and it's a tremendous opportunity for those who are interested. It really is.
And Rolf, from a brand, sorry, go ahead, Caroline.
I just want to add one thing to Rachel's comment, because I think she's 100% right on price point. And I would also add to that just accessibility of product, because you don't always have the opportunity to choose a sustainable option. And, certain categories are worse than others. Swimwear, stretch, active can be more challenging. But, even people who want to buy sustainable, they're not always presented with a choice. And that's really just about evolution of industry in the sector.
Absolutely. And in terms of choice and availability from a brand perspective and a designer perspective, what would be your appraisal, Rolf?
Well, it's mostly about costs for me. What I see is the barrier, but we are at a point where it's almost the same, the prices for the old school materials and the new ones. So I mean, it shouldn't be a barrier. I try to communicate through social media what our clothing is made out of, but it's also, I don't want to preach. It's a thin line between being too preachy and also, like, I'm not a fan of the term greenwashing, because it sort of paints the world quite black and white, and for people at this time in the age where everybody has an opinion and it's easy to get it out, it's sort of it can eradicate really good things in the world if someone just has a negative opinion of something. So it's a delicate line to walk on where I try not to be preachy, I try to do the right thing, and I also want to avoid too many difficult discussions, because I'm not sure if the times we live in now are good for more difficult subjects. But that's just my opinion, again.
Nice. Great to hear. the second question we have from the audience is around how can we leverage circular economy to create more opportunities for underserved communities? So whether it's training or providing broader economic opportunities, what would be your perspectives on this topic?
I can answer that. I mean, I think that underserved communities is broad. I think we're in a time right now where a lot of people are looking for jobs. And I think that that there's a huge opportunity in the circular economy to retool workforces and provide those jobs. I think there's a desperate need for it, in fact. And there's also a lot of skilled labor that doesn't really even need to have a retooling of their skills. They just need work. And so part of the work I'm doing with my organization, Skilled Laborers Brigade, is 200 garment factories since March 2020 have gone out of business completely. And so during the pandemic, we started finding work for them through upcycling of materials. And we continue to work with them to upcycle apparel and repair apparel. And these are some of the most skilled labor in the United States for the garment industry, and they're actively looking for work. And so I would consider them underserved as well. We don't want to lose those skills, and I think there's an opportunity for them, if we can grow the circular economy, to start teaching people how to work in this new sort of circular economy way. And I'm not going to be able to teach. They're the skilled labor.
Great. And we've got 1 minute left for this conversation. So maybe what we can do is for each of you to leave our audience with your key takeaway or what you want them to take away from this conversation. Should we start with you, Caroline?
Sure. My takeaway would be it is a really exciting transformation of an important sector that we will see great change in the coming years. And there's work to be done on all the things we talked about. Additionally, the development of consistent global metrics, critically important, doesn't exist today. Introduction of a regulatory environment, engagement of companies, consumers, and investors. So lots to be done, but great opportunity. And I'm really excited for the future of fashion. I think it's going to deliver better, higher performance product that has a lesser environmental footprint. So looking forward to it.
Great.
I think that I'm, even over just the past few weeks, some of the press I've seen and some of the initiatives I've seen, I'm really proud of our industry, actually. I think we get a very bad rap, but I see us moving faster, quicker, and harder than a lot of other industries, even though we've started later. And so I think that's going to I think that the next 3 to 5 years are going to be really impressive. And I think one of the strengths of the fashion industry is that we are storytellers. And I think that's going to really benefit us as we sort of form our trajectory of becoming more sustainable, because we're going to let consumers know about what we're doing, how they can participate in it, and that's going to drive demand, which will drive innovation. So I'm excited.
Amazing. And Rolf?
Yeah, I think there are lots of reasons to be cynical in today's world, but I really don't think there's any reason for not to have hope in fashion for now, because I've seen what amazing things can be achieved here. So I'm super hopeful and trying to stay positive, even though I might be faking it at times. But
well, I like to conclude this conversation on those reasons to be hopeful and positive. That's a nice way to wrap it up. Thank you very much to the three of you for sharing your thoughts. Thanks very much for the audience who shared their questions and listened to our conversation. And now we're moving on to a presentation from innovators from Finland contributing to this transformation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, all panelists. What an insightful conversation. And now we're heading towards the innovation showcases, as mentioned, where we have 8 compelling case examples from Finland on transforming the textile and fashion industries. We will start with Spinnova, a cellulose fiber startup who just announced they'll build a plant in Finland with Brazilian pulp group Suzano to make sustainable textile fiber from wood and waste, and the commercial production should begin by the end of 2022. H&M is one of Spinnova's new brand partners. Pia Quintus, Business Development Director of Spinnova, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sanna. My name is Pia Quintus and I come from Spinnova, the sustainable material company. Next. We have developed a breakthrough technology for a production of new environmentally friendly textile fiber that can be made directly from wood pulp or pulp made of side streams like agricultural waste, for instance straw, without dissolving the cellulose and without the use of any harmful chemicals. This is the core of our technology that differentiates us from other so-called man-made cellulosic fibers. Next. Our technology is very simple. We can use whatever raw material that contains cellulose or lignocellulose as raw material. We use it in the pulp form or as a cellulose fraction in water suspension, and we only mechanically refine it to so-called microfibrillated cellulose. We add some flow additives and we pump the suspension into an extrusion device, and we spray the suspension out when the water is evaporated and long filaments are formed. The evaporating water is the only waste generated in the process, and the long filaments can then be cut to staple fibers to be used in a normal way in yarn production. Next. Our materials are extremely sustainable. If our fibers end up in the nature, they don't form any microplastics when they degrade. They degrade like wood fibers or paper fibers. All the components used in the production of the materials are natural based. The materials are totally biodegradable in anaerobic and aerobic conditions. And in the production we use 99% less water than in production of, for instance, cotton fibers. We don't use any harmful chemicals in the production process, and also CO2 emissions are minimal from our process. Next, please. Our materials are totally circular. We can recycle our own fabrics again in our process and receive high quality fibers and high quality yarns again and again. Next, please. And where are we today? Today we are producing our materials in our second generation pilot facility in Jyväskylä. We can produce 20,000 kilos per year, which means that we can do commercial scale trials with our brand partners in production of yarn and fabrics. And our first commercial scale mill will be in production in the end of next year, and we will multiply the production capacity to some thousands of tons per year. And as first raw material in our commercial mill, we will be using wood-based kraft pulp. But we are doing also a lot of development in developing waste stream-based raw materials. We are doing the commercialization together with the brands, for instance, Bestseller, Bergans, H&M and Marimekko. And we are expecting to have several demo product launches coming in the near future. And thank you. If you are interested in collaborating with Spinnova, please contact me. Thanks.
Thank you, Pia. And next, we'll hear from Senior Innovation Advisor Jari Laine of Aalto University. He'll speak about IonCell, technology that turns used textiles, pulp, or even old newspapers into new textile fibers sustainably. The process converts cellulose into fibers, which in turn can be made into long-lasting fabrics. Go ahead, Jari.
Good morning, Marika. So we are still working in the university as a research project on the brink of starting to scale up our technology. So we are searching for partners for scaling up both industrial, fashion, and funders. Our technology is based on a chemical recycling or chemical dissolving of cellulosic fibers. So like the previous speaker, we are also dealing with cellulosic raw materials. We can call our process kind of a triple closed loop. So we start off from biomass, any kind of biomass containing enough cellulosic polymers. So we can take waste materials, but we can also take wood pulp. Our process obviously is also closed loop. We are using a specific ionic liquid to dissolve the fibers. And our products are also circular in the sense that we can put our end products back to our process and make new products. Next one, please. This is a simplified picture of our chemical process with the first step starting from either new materials like virgin pulp or agricultural waste, but also waste textiles containing high quantities of cellulosic fibers like your old, let's say, cotton jeans, for example. We are dissolving them using the ionic liquid, and then we are pressing this material through very tiny holes to, let's say, tinier than the diameter of our hair to produce the fibers, which are then further processed in other steps. So we don't actually have this yarn spinning or textile manufacturing in a larger scale ourselves, but we will use our partners to do those parts. And it can basically also continue several loops. So we have tested that we can turn around our fibers 5 or 6 times without major degradation of properties. So it is pretty sustainable. Next, please. Yeah, that is just to explain the closed loop. We have a few slides for the professionals who want to know what kind of fibers we are producing. And in brief, we could compare our fibers to the technical and other properties of the commercial Textile brand at the moment. A bit tougher than the Textile itself, but otherwise it behaves, looks, feels, dyes pretty much the same. And it obviously is very nice to wear as well because it absorbs moisture. And it is also biodegradable after the use, after we have recycled it several times. Next one, please. Some more technical details. I mentioned that it is pretty strong. The tenacity, tensile strength compared to cotton, for example, is almost double, and compared to Textile also higher. So for applications that need high durability, this is pretty good choice. Next one, please. We are particularly interesting university to work with because we do have also the School of Arts and Design next to our chemical endeavors, and they have some capacity to make small trials or even industrial scale demo clothes. And we have tried to, we are closely cooperating with the School of Arts and Design here. But it is just to show what kind of capabilities we have. The next one, please. As mentioned, recycling textile waste, so for example, cotton waste is pretty important for us, and we are making further studies on that area. And just to show off that we have a successfully recycled cardboard newsprints, and President Macron was given a kind of scarf made out of blue jeans, and even retaining the nice indigo blue color in the scarf. Next, please. For the Independence Day of Finland, a couple of years back or 3 years back, soon we made a dress for the First Lady of Finland. It is 100% iron cell made out of virgin birch pulp, which I think fits perfectly for a Finnish First Lady and Finland. The birch is kind of a natural tree also sometimes. It was totally made in Aalto University also, the fabric itself with the School of Arts and Design, and the design was made by the students. Next one, please. We also had a small exhibition in Paris a couple of years back when we still could travel there, and our art students made these beautiful dresses out of iron cell. Next one, please. We're also working with companies, for example, with Marika, to study how our fabrics behave in print. Next one, please. So we are looking for industrial partnerships, but funding is also important, and collaboration with brands. So please be in contact with me. We have just built, or we are about to start our pilot plant in Aalto campus area. It will be still very small scale, but now we are able this year to make some more, let's say, collections, demo collections, small collections with brand owners. Next one, please. And here are my contact information if you are interested. So please be in contact. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jari. Then we have another Aalto University innovation, which we all have seen in our main event picture. The shimmering wood colors offer a sustainable alternative to the toxic pigments and plastic-based materials used in the fashion industry. Doctoral candidates Nora Yao and Konrad Klockars will tell us more.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our shimmering wood research project. Next slide, please. For as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with glittering and shimmering colors. I have admired the sparkling spots of color on butterfly wings, and the glint of dragonflies by the shimmering lake in the summer, and the abstract works of art formed by oil slicks on cobblestones, and the vivid colors of peacock feathers. Next one, please. Later on, I learned that all of these magnificent colors are, in fact, structural colors. Nature produces intensely bright and vivid colors. The secret to these colors are microscopically small nanostructures, creating color completely without pigments or dyes. Next slide, please. So what if we could mimic nature and make structural color ourselves? And what if we could do it sustainably from renewable resources? Next slide, please. Shiny things have fascinated mankind from the beginning. Some scientists believe this is because shiny colors resemble water, which is essential for survival. Today, glittery colors such as holographic, pearlescent, and iridescent effects are among growing color trends in fashion and design. At the same time, there is an environmental cost. Currently, these effects are created by using toxic pigments, plastic-based materials, or metallic foils. Next slide, please. In Aalto University, we are developing a solution to these problems from an unexpected resource, from wood.
You can take the next slide. Okay, so to make this structural color, first we basically grind wood into tiny microscopic fragments, and we extract something called nanocellulose. And for this, we don't have to rely on any particular species or any particular part of the tree. So basically any other plant biomass also works, or we could use waste fractions. Next slide, please. So we can then apply this nanocellulose onto a surface to create a colorful structural color coating. And there's no pigments or colorants in this nanocellulose. It's the cellulose structure itself that forms the color during the coating process. And next slide, please. Now we basically end up with a color that is produced 100% from wood. It's completely non-toxic and doesn't harm the environment if it ends up there. Next slide. Now the flexibility and the washability of this coating is something that still needs further development before we could actually use it directly on textiles. So at the moment, our biggest focus point is adding the coating onto solid surfaces. And in the fashion context, this colorant could be added, for example, onto accessories or a solid part of a piece of clothing. Next slide, please. So we've now been working on this color for more than 4 years. And currently we develop these structural color coatings in the Structural Color Studio. Next slide, please. here we basically combine methods from science, art, technology, and design and explore the potential of the colorant towards artistic and design applications. And the next slide.
When we started our collaboration, the color was barely visible and we only used a few grams of the material. Next slide, please. Now we coat large surfaces with glittery colors. Next slide. Currently, we are coloring wood with wood, creating a kind of a monomaterial. Next slide, please. Exploring the cool features and unique characteristics of our colorant. Challenging the normal associations of wooden colors as being more down to earth with shades of gray and beige. Next slide, please. Showing that even wood can shimmer. Next slide. Thank you. And here is our contact information if you are eager to hear more about our research. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora and Konrad. We see questions coming to the chat box. Thank you so much for that. We will collect the questions addressed to the speakers and circle back with you by email as soon as possible. Nordshield has harnessed the ancient power of Nordic forests. The uniqueness of their technology comes from an ultra-thin layer that forms a physical barrier against viruses, bacteria, and fungi. The technology can be used in a variety of surfaces from skin to plastic and fibers. Over to you, Christopher Eggman, the CEO of Nordshield.
Thank you, Sanna, and good morning, New York. Thank you very much for inviting us to participate in this venue. I truly appreciate the opportunity to be able to introduce Nordshield to you. Next slide, please. Nordshield was developed by us to offer a substitute to the challenges caused by currently used chemicals that are harmful to the environment and to non-renewable ingredients such as silver, especially for the area of antimicrobial solutions. Next, please. And this we've done through a groundbreaking technology, actually a technology that is both safe for our planet and for each and everyone living on it. Next, please. The beauty of Nordshield is that it combines the required antimicrobial efficacy with being both natural-based, sustainably produced, and biodegradable. We've all been in touch with and worked with a lot of antimicrobials throughout the years, but they basically have a challenge in either being natural and not efficient enough, or then on the other hand, you're looking at heavy metals like silver or quartz, which then again are, well, obviously quite highly poisonous and toxic for the environment. So next slide, please. Our water-based fiber applications cover three core areas. We have our eco-layer application that's been optimized for the protection against mold during both transport and warehousing. Then our biolayer and pathogen barrier applications provide antibacterial and antiviral protection and have been designed both for consumers and for the medical sector. And in addition to the water-based fiber applications, we also look at offering both solvent-based alternatives and obviously ointments as well. Next slide, please. All this we can actually achieve in a sustainable way. We use renewable ingredients from the production side streams of the forest industry, which we further develop into what we've now branded as Nordshield. As we all know, the importance of an effective production process, it works in our favor that the Nordshield treatment is extremely flexible and easy to apply to the textile production process. When we discuss this part, I usually refer to it as a dip and dry process, since once the textile has been submerged into the Nordshield working solution and dried, the treated textile is now after that protected by the Nordshield barrier. And this barrier is you're not able. Oh, sorry, I lost that one. The barrier does. It doesn't change the touch and feel of the garment itself, and so it's invisible for the eye, and so overall we're looking at a technology which we believe has a true sustainability impact globally. Next slide, please. And well, with this, I would again like to thank you for the opportunity to introduce actually a technology which leaves nothing but goodness behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christopher. And next, we'll hear Jarkko Jussila, the CSO and co-founder of Coveros, whose technology is used for adding value and user benefits into new and used textile products in the form of functionalities. They have over 15 functionalities in their product solutions portfolio designed for protection, active lifestyle, and comfortable feeling. Jarkko, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sanna. Also on my behalf, thanks a lot for joining us today. My name is Jarkko Jussila. I am a co-founder and the CSO of the company. And now introduction to Coveros and our story, how we bring more life into fashion. Next, please. Next slide, please. So Coveros is the name of our textile technology brand and also the name of our Helsinki, Finland-based company, which was established 2 years ago. However, our history goes back a few years more and originates actually from Japan. There, our first product, world's first fabric with 10 functionalities, was introduced already 2016. Our clients in Japan being fashion brands, retail, and workwear. Since then, over 1 million garments powered by Coveros multifunctional fabric have been distributed to the Japanese market. But today, Coveros Finland company, leading the branded business expansion and sustainable technology development, offers functional textile solutions for protection and well-being, feeling good and stress relief, active lifestyle sports, and smart life. Additionally, we are developing novel product as service, functional garment washing, and upcycling solution for smart and circular economy. And actually, yes, we are also located in Tokyo. Next slide. Our Coveros product solutions come alive in categories which are designed to explain the benefits and value for the consumers, and of course, at the same time also to our fashion value chain partners. And our product categories are protect, active, feel, and next slide, please, sense. And this one being where we integrate sensing technologies into Coveros functional fabrics. Obviously, also in fashion, it's eventually all about consumer and customer data. Within Sense, we are developing sustainable smartwear solutions for the near future smart city living environments, and these for improving, of course, the same time users' well-being and self-care options. Inside each category, we are constantly making development to fulfill sustainability and circular economy requirements. Obviously, also smartwear need to be fit for circular economy and fairly soon. Next. Here you can see our full set of categories and functionalities inside these categories, which we can add in with Coveros technology into new, used, and recycled materials, and also to ready-made textile products. For recycled materials, we can upgrade the quality, cleanliness, and touch and feel. We can also create combos between categories based on our customers' needs. Some of these are still under development, especially those within Sense category. Next. Within circular economy for textiles, we already present in manufacturing with 2 special multifunctional fabric solutions which can be used for indoors, outdoors, and innerwear. We have POC and small-scale piloting ongoing for functional ready-made product finishing and garment washing. Full-scale upcycling solution is under development, this one being eventually easy to plug into smaller production and recycling hubs. Coveros technology happens simultaneously in 2 locations, Finland and Japan, together with leading universities and biomaterial circular economy accelerators. With all this, we are, of course, aiming at mitigate climate change by reducing use of water, energy, chemicals, and eventually remove microplastics and microbes from textile finishing and garment washing wastewater. And next. So should you be interested in learning more and partnering with us or even investing in us, please be in contact with me, and my email address is there. And thank you very much for your time, and hope you have a very nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaakko. Now we'll give the floor to Noora Salmoja, the CEO of Touchpoint, which is a forerunner in sustainable workwear with a passion to develop circular solutions for the industry. Whenever you're ready, Noora.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity and great to be here. Next slide, please. We are Touchpoint. We are a fast-growing sustainable workwear company from Finland, and we are really the true forerunner in sustainable and circular textile solutions. And we are aiming for this position in the Nordic markets, but also in the wider reach, and not only in workwear, but in textiles generally. We were founded in 2008, and last year in 2020, we made a very big strategic decision and decided to invest in Rester, which is going to be the largest textile processing plant in the Nordics. And this will be our solution for our end-of-life textiles. Next slide, please. We are the Nordic forerunner in sustainable workwear and circular textile solutions, and this means that we are involved in a lot of the publicly funded projects, but also private projects when it comes to the circularity of textiles. And Rester and our co-founding in the project is just one of the examples where we are involved in. Next slide, please. Our approach is that whenever we are starting or working with our customers and partners, we want to truly push the boundaries of how modern workwear can be done for a more sustainable and circular textile industry. Here, for example, you see a case that we did with Spinnova, which we heard just a while ago. So this is a prototype of an apron, which is completely 100% wood-based. The process has not included any harmful chemicals when in the making, and it's also biodegradable. The truth is that this is not ready for a workwear application, but it's a showcase of how we see our position in the market. We have to partner with the best, and this is just one of the examples. Next slide, please. Here you see a few of the customer cases that we have had the privilege to work with. So in terms of workwear, we provide anything from the military to healthcare to hotels and restaurants, and also to transport then, for example, aviation. Next slide, please. Our approach when we start the workwear project, it really starts from the sustainable design. So we believe in the principle that 80% of sustainability and recyclability of the product is determined at the design phase. And we always aim to look for environmentally preferred materials, be it recycled polyester, organic cotton, or then now more than ever looking into these cellulose-based materials. But the main thing is, and the kind of thing that we have to always set as the baseline when talking about workwear is that it has to be functional, it has to be comfortable, and it has to be durable. So we never compromise durability among or above anything else. And at the end of the life cycle, we have then Rester. So we are committed to taking back all textiles that we deliver or produce to our customers as of 2021. And in Rester, in the recycling plant, we use mechanical recycling to process our waste textiles into recycled textile fiber that can then be used in various industrial applications. And we've done prototypes of this kind of closed loop before already. So already in 2017, we were working together with our customer Hesburger, which is a fast food hamburger chain here in Finland. And we turned their workwear into composite tables and furniture that is now used in their restaurants in the driveways. Next slide, please. Here you see our sustainability goals. So we want to be the workwear partner to provide the widest selection of environmentally preferred workwear material. We are committed to taking back and responsibly recycling all textiles that we deliver as of 2021. And we want to be there to launch a carbon neutral workwear by 2022. So a small capsule collection. Next slide, please. If you're interested to know more about sustainable workwear and how we have closed the loop, contact me. My email is apparently not now visible on the slide, but I'm sure you will find my contact information from the organizers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nora. Now it's time to learn from packaging solutions. Woodley has developed a carbon-neutral bio-based plastic from cellulose that can be used to replace traditional fossil-based plastics, for instance, in packaging. The CEO of Woodley, Jaakko Kaminen, will tell us more.
Good morning from my behalf as well, and many thanks for this opportunity to introduce Woodley as a company as well as a material. So as a company, we are a Finland-based startup in the field of material technology, and we have redesigned plastic. So the Woodley material is an entirely new type of plastic that is based on certified and sustainable wood cellulose. It is 100% carbon neutral material, and it can be used for various types of applications, whether we are talking about packaging or products. Next slide, please. So as a company, our purpose is to provide an easy way for the brand owners to switch to eco-friendly packaging and to achieve their sustainability goals regarding the packaging and to deliver more customer value. Next slide, please. And this is the reason why our own product development has been based on strong consumer insights. So we've studied the consumers extensively together with dedicated brand owners to understand how to use a new type of material, how to use Woodley as a unique selling point to influence the consumers' purchasing decisions, their preference and their willingness to pay. You might even say that Woodley is entirely a co-creation concept together with the consumers and with the brand owners. And at this point, we know that Woodley, it makes sense, and we're able to create not only ecological value, but commercial and functional value in different type of applications as well. The next slide, please. One of the new applications that we will launch in next month, in fact, is a Woodley Polybag. So it's a transparent and exceptionally clear polybag with good printing quality and heat seals, based on Woodley, the certified biomaterial, wood-based, carbon-neutral material. And the polybags are highly scalable due to the fact that we have outsourced the production to plastic industry, who can produce the Woodley polybags with their standard machinery. And this makes it possible for the brand owners to use their current suppliers anywhere in the world. We also have our preferred partners that we can recommend, but we are willing and able to work with anyone to produce the bags. And after the use, Woodley is designed to be recycled in the mechanical plastic recycling stream. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned already, we will launch the polybags next month in Europe. Our first customer is Black Moda. They are producing their clothing in Portugal, which is the reason why we are also producing the bags in Portugal. Next slide, please. So please check out woodley.com to learn more about us. And if you're interested in ecological polybags or different type of materials to replace the traditional fossil plastics, please do contact me and let's talk. Many thanks.
Thank you, Jaakko. Finally, we'll end our wonderful set of presentations with Rebag that helps 150 apparel brands and retailers to move away from single use in Europe and North America by offering reusable packaging, return logistics, and a reward system. Welcome to the virtual stage, the CEO and co-founder of Rebag, Jonne Helgren.
Thank you. Yeah, Jonne Helgren from Rebag. And Rebag simply removes packaging trash from e-commerce, and especially now, I think we all are doing most of our shopping online, maybe more than we would like to. But with Rebag's help, you can, and we as a society can get rid of that mountain of trash that this online shopping habit is creating. So Rebag is basically a reuse as a service. It comes in three parts. So if you click on the next two clicks as well. First element is that we have reusable packaging that is designed so that it folds into letter size when empty, so that it can be easily returned anywhere in the world by simply folding it into letter size and putting it into a post box in New York or in London or in Helsinki. Empty ones are returned to us when we take care of them and put the bags back into circulation. A majority of our brands also offer an incentive for consumers to return their empty Rebag. So once empty Rebag is returned, you often get a voucher for your next purchase. So you save money on your next purchase. Next, please. And the only thing really that happens in the Rebag cycle that is different from a normal online shopping is that we replace the single-use packaging in the warehouse. Goods are packed into a Rebag, delivered. The consumer, if they keep the goods, they can return the empty bag to us for checking and cleaning, and then the cycle starts again. Next, please. And our focus is on fashion and goods that don't require protection during transport, and we work with over 150 clothing brands, mainly in Europe, but also launched in the US and Canada recently, and some of so you see some of the more well-known European brands and more US brands to come soon. Next, please. And this is what our packaging currently looks like. It's made from the same material as the blue IKEA bag, so it's durable and most importantly folds into letter size when empty. It also adjusts to size, so you don't chip any air. And if you click on the pricing always includes the prepaid return, so the consumer doesn't have to pay anything for returning their Rebag. And currently we are on an average of $4 per cycle. And if you click on the next slide, please. This is why majority of our customers actually offer Rebag as an option for their customers to choose from. So, for example, LEU, one of our US-based customers, offers Rebag as an option, and they see 30 to 40% of their customers opting in and covering the cost to LEO. So it's actually free for the brand to use. Next, please. And why this matters is that when we manufacture new cardboard boxes, for example, you make roughly 200 grams of CO2. With returning to be reused, we dramatically reduce the carbon impact of one cycle. And in the lifetime of Rebag, you're looking at an 80% of CO2 reduction. Next, please. And if we can't use the Rebags, then I don't know what happened to the other photo there, but we closed the loop in style as well in terms of upcycling them to new products. And here you see an example of a collaboration we did last year, and old used repacks were upcycled to bags and used at Selfridges and sold at their Selfridges in London. Next, please. But more importantly, when it comes to e-commerce, is that the consumers are really ready for this. Our brands who launch with repack are surprised and happy about the feedback they get from consumers, and sometimes that we feel that the consumer feedback feels fake. It's so good. So it's definitely an improvement, not just to sustainability, but to your customer experience. Next, please. So this is repack, and basically I'll leave you with a note that this is a solution that is free for the brand to use when they offer it as an option to the customers, improves the user experience, generates new sales through the reward program without generating any trash. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jonne. That is a wrap for today's session. Thank you to all the speakers, companies, research organizations, and of course to our wonderful audience for joining our event today. Feel free to be in touch with us with any questions or comments you may have. You can find our contact information in the slide next to me, and also in the chat box there next to the video window. We will collect all the questions and comments addressed to the companies from the chat and circle back with you by email as soon as possible. Kiitos, thank you, and have a nice rest of your day.